Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Sunday. It is 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. I'm here. I've got my coffee. I am ready to talk with you guys. I hope you are having a wonderful start to the day. In this morning's Light Talk, we are going to talk about reclaiming our worth, our self-worth. And this is perhaps one of my favorite chapters in the book. And it's also, I think, the most pivotal, as we begin to wrap up on our light talks, around the different chapters of the book as we near the end. This was one of the concepts that had the biggest impact in my life. This was one of the changes, or the changes in mindset and thinking, that led to the most drastic results, that was the most freeing and the most liberating. So I'm really excited to share this light talk with you today. But before that, we're going to take a moment and we are going to pray like we do at the beginning of every light talk, just so that we can ground and center ourselves, so that we can relax and reset our nervous systems. And then we will jump into the content of today's call. So today we are going to start with the Metta Bhavana prayer, which I've got here. I've got it printed, and this is part of the Instances of Light card deck that we launched last week, Friday. Seems like a lifetime ago. The days have been so crazy and so busy. And if you've launched products, you know that feeling. Or if you've launched anything, really, you know that feeling. But I just want to take a couple seconds to talk to you guys about this card deck. This is a print at home card deck. You can see it Sunday morning, and I'm still struggling to find my words. But this is a print at home card deck, which means it's extremely accessible to everyone, and we wanted to make sure it would be that way. It's got 48 cards in it, so it's 12 pages of 4 cards on each that you can print at home. You can print them in color, you can print them in black and white. We actually kept the design and the color scheme very minimal. Most of the cards are black and white, with I think the exception of the cover card. We kept them that way so that it would be extremely accessible, extremely easy for you guys to print these at home, and print multiple copies if you need to, and you can have them in different places around the house. You can have, a collection of them by your nightstand. You can have a few of them inserted into your day planner. You can post, some of your favorite mantras on the fridge with a magnet. You can keep a stack of them in the glove compartment of your car or in your handbag. We wanted to make it so that you can tap into your light. You can tap into your peace, your stillness, your joy in an instant, wherever you are. So in this card deck, there is a collection of prayers, of mantras, of centering thoughts, and meditations. The meditations from the book Awakening the Lightwarriorwithin that we're talking about today. And we kept everything really short, really simple, so that you could take these and in an instant, you could just tune back in and ground and center yourself. I apologize for any background noise. The little one is playing this morning. Normally we do this in the afternoon during his nap, so it's a little bit of a change in dynamic for us here, but that's okay. We'll be fine. So yeah, I created this for you guys so that it would be extremely accessible and extremely easy to use. And there is an abundance of cards here. Like I said, there's 48 cards, so you can cycle through them. You can, sift out your favorite ones and go through those. You can go through them in chronological order. You can use this like an oracle deck and, shuffle through them every day and, pick out one at random and let kind of the universe guide you on your practice and what you need to be focusing on that day, and let the card deck speak to you in that way. So this is available through my website. You can go to www.daviddcoach.ca/instances of light. /instances of light, and the card deck is there. You can purchase it. You can also get a free copy, a smaller deck, but a free sample copy if you want to sample the cards and see what they're like, at davidd.ca/warrior-tools, where we have also all of the meditations and all of our light talks. The card deck is also available there, and there's also a free sample available that has about 12 cards, if I'm not mistaken, of different prayers and centering thoughts and meditations, so that you can print them out, you can cycle through them, see how you like it, before committing to the full deck. But the full deck is $4.99 Canadian. It's extremely accessible. And like I said, it's a PDF file that you download. You can print it yourself. You can send it to, your local, not hardware, but, print center like at Staples or something, and have them printed for you if you want it on a thicker quality paper. But extremely accessible and extremely easy to use. And you can keep them, like I said, wherever you need them around the house, just so that whenever you find yourself in a moment of stress or chaos, or, succumbing to the craziness or the fear of the ego, which we're going to be talking about today, you have these cards at hand that you can reach for them and pull on one and tune in an instant. So, that being said, let's take a moment to ground and center ourselves. If you can, close your eyes, breathing in and out through your nose. If you are driving, if you are in the kitchen, if you're doing anything that requires your focus, please keep your eyes opened. But otherwise, keep your eyes closed, keep your tongue pressed to the roof of your mouth. That will help keep your energetic connection intact. And just continue breathing in and out through your nose, deeply, slowly. It should feel effortless. It should feel calming. And just take a moment to ground and center yourself, sending love and light out into the world, to those you love, to your friends, to your family, to your acquaintances, sending that love further into your communities, into the people of the world that are suffering right now, who are working on healing, who are forgiving, who are struggling, who are going through grief. Let's just send out that love and that light. And we'll say the Metta Bhavana prayer together. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be free of suffering. May I be free of mental anxiety. May I live in peace. May my life be blessed with ease. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free of suffering. May you be free of mental anxiety. May you live in peace. May your life be blessed with ease. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May we be free of suffering. May we be free of mental anxiety. May we live in peace. May our lives be blessed with ease. And so it is. Take another deep breath in through your nose. Exhaling through your nose, and slowly start to settle back into your body and come back to me. All right, so reclaiming our worth. Let me take another sip of my coffee. This is going to be a good one today. Let's talk about reclaiming our worth. Let's talk about the fact that our worth, for starters, like I explain in the book, our worth is inherent. It cannot be diminished. It is part of our divine nature. It is part of our divine essence. We are born with it. It is in us, but not of us. It comes from that divine spark. It comes from our inherent holiness and our inherent divinity. And so that worth cannot be diminished. It cannot be altered. It cannot be changed. It cannot be exchanged. It cannot be lost. So what happens to us? Where does it go? Because if you're here, if you've read the book, if you've struggled, at any moment in your life on your journey with any type of issue, whether it be body image or not feeling like you were worthy of love or belonging, or didn't feel like you belonged, or didn't feel like you were worthy of being desired, or if you were struggling in your relationships or your career, or in your family, all of these issues, they tend to boil down to the same thing. They tend to boil down to the same root cause, which is not feeling worthy, not feeling like we are enough. It is part of our existential crisis. It is a shared human condition of suffering that we all go through, this struggle of not feeling worthy, not feeling like we're enough. And, part of that comes just from the fact that living in this world, living especially in this day and age when we have access to so much through social media, which social media and technology is a great thing. It connects us in so many different ways. But there are downsides to that as well, right? We get to see, sorry, I'm just adjusting my camera. We get to see how everybody else is living. We get to see the quality of everybody else's lives, the things that they have, their possessions, their stature in terms of what they have attained, what they have acquired for their lives. And social media, for the most part, I know that there are some people who aren't like this, but social media tends to show the good. It tends to show the very clean and polished and refined side of everyone's lives. It doesn't show the hard parts, the messy parts. It doesn't show the day-to-day struggles. It doesn't show the day-to-day struggles with anxiety and depression and fear and, thoughts of self-loathing and self-attack and self-criticism and self-judgment. It doesn't show our struggles with worthiness. And this is changing. There are more and more people, more and more influencers, more and more leaders, more and more coaches, more and more healers who are on social media showing the down and dirty of their everyday lives. And I think it's great. It's great giving us this insight into the fact that we are all human and we are all connected and we are all not suffering, but we are all struggling, to make it from one moment to the next. And there are many moments in our lives that are absolutely beautiful and breathtaking and filled with love and peace and gratitude and joy. But it doesn't diminish the fact that there are also moments of struggle. There are also moments that are difficult. And we don't tend to see a lot of this when we look online, when we look on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Pinterest. What we see is the very refined, very polished side. And so we begin to compare. We begin to compare our lives against those of other people in terms of what they have acquired, what their perfect life or perfect moment or perfect day looks like, and we compare ours against it. And these feelings of inadequacy tend to build, and they tend to grow, and they tend to manifest. And it begins to chip away at our self-worth, and we begin to tell ourselves things like, well, I'll be worthy when? I'll be worthy when I lose the weight, when I get, my dream body, when I get the job, when I get the car, when I get the boat, when I get the house, when I get the guy or the girl or the family or the kids. That's when I'll be worthy. That's when I'll be happy. That's when I'll be worthy of love and belonging and connection, worthy of leaning into my joy, worthy of being happy. We tend to attach our worth and our happiness and our joy to all of these external factors. And so in doing this, it's not that we diminish our self-worth, because like I said, our worth is inherent. You were born, you're here, you're breathing, you're worthy. That will never change. It has never changed, and it will never change. You will always be worthy. You will always be worthy of love and belonging and compassion and respect. But the more we begin to attach our worth to these external factors in our lives, the more we think of our worth as something out there, something to be attained when, or something to be experienced when I attain X or Y, what we begin to do is we begin to disconnect ourselves. We begin to disconnect ourselves from our divinity, from our holiness, from that divine light, that divine spark that lives within us, that center that our worthiness comes from, that it stems from. So it's not that we diminish our worth. It's not that we have lost our worth. It's not that we have become unworthy. It's that we have disconnected ourselves from our true self, from our true purpose in living here in this life, in this moment. We begin to become separate. And if you're a student of A Course in Miracles, or most spiritual texts, our biggest obstacle in this lifetime is tackling that of separation of self, separation from holiness, separation from divinity. And it's our fear, it's all of these external measures of worth, of validation, of happiness, of joy that cause us to become separate from ourselves, separate from our higher power, separate from, the universal flow of energy, whatever you want to call it. All of these measures of attainment cause us to separate from ourselves and separate from our true selves and our holiness and our purpose in our lives. And so what causes us, where does it change along the way? We're born worthy, we're born innocent, we're born believing in our worth and not even questioning our worth. It's not really something that comes into question. Where does it change? Where does this transformation start to take place? And it starts at a very young age. As a child, we learn very quickly that we need to do something in order to get something. We need to cry in order to get attention. We need to, as children grow older, we need to demonstrate our capabilities in order to get love and validation and praise. And that could be, from a young child who's learning how to walk. They take their first steps, they start crawling, they say their first words. They are met with this flood, this wave of love and appreciation and validation and excitement. And we continue to grow on that. It continues to snowball, right? As they grow, as they evolve, as we grow and evolve. Into a child that is then going to school and needs to achieve and needs to, hit certain grades and certain marks in order to get that love and that praise from their parents and their family and their, their extended families. And from a very young age, we develop this mentality, this mindset that in order to get love, in order to get, happiness and joy, I need to do. I need to achieve, I need to attain. And this continues to grow and manifest and develop itself over the course of our lives until we hit that moment where we experience our first heartbreak. And I don't mean heartbreak necessarily of the romantic type. I mean that we face an instant or a moment in our lives where we don't deliver. Or at least we don't deliver the way, we are expected to, the way our parents, our families, our teachers, our society expects us to. And we are met with pain. We are met with loss or suffering. And that is what I consider to be our first heartbreak. And in that moment, we begin to start to associate this concept of, the fear of not being worthy, not being enough. Because all of our lives we've been delivering, we've been achieving, we've been performing, and we've been, met back with validation, with praise, with love, with acceptance. And then all of a sudden it breaks, right? The chain breaks when we don't deliver, or we don't deliver to the level that someone is expecting of us. And we're met with pain. We're met with that first initial heartbreak. And that's where this thought form of not being worthy, not being enough, starts to insert itself into our minds, into our ego. And it begins to grow and it begins to develop and to manifest over the course of our lives. And then as we get older and we look out on social media, we look at movies, we look at magazines, and we see these different bodies that are considered desirable or attractive. We see these different lifestyles that are considered acceptable or successful. We look at all of these external images that the world is giving to us. And we immediately start to compare. And if I don't have this, if I don't have this job, if I don't have this type of house, this type of car, this type of vehicle, if I don't have, this type of body, if I don't look a certain way, then I'm not worthy. I'm not living up to the standards that the world and society is expecting of me. And so this fear begins to set in, this anticipation of forthcoming pain, forthcoming loss, forthcoming heartbreak, because we don't have what the world is telling us that we should have. We don't look like what the world is telling us we should look like in order to be desirable, in order to be loved, in order to be accepted, in order to belong and to fit in. And so this anticipation creates anxiety within us. And we continue to reinforce these ideas of, well, then I will be happy when, I will be loved when, I will be worthy when, I change, I transform, I attain all of these different things in my life. And we end up living in this constant sense of, or this constant state of fear and anxiety. And most of us don't even realize we're living with these emotions, that we're living in this state of anxiety or fear, because it has become our normal. You know, this has become the state that we've been living in for years and decades, and for some of us several decades, that we don't even realize that we're living in this fear anymore. We have this constant sense of inadequacy, of being an imposter, of feeling like we don't belong in our own lives, in our own relationships, in our own families, in our own societies, because we don't measure up. We are inadequate. We are unworthy. And so when it comes to reclaiming our worth, it's somewhat insidious, because I can't sit here and teach you how to be worthy, because you already are. You were born worthy. And like I said at the beginning, that never changed, and it will never change. You will always be worthy. For as long as you are here on this planet, in this life, you will always be worthy. And that is worthy of everything, by the way. That is worthy of all of it. That is worthy of love and connection and belonging and desire and passion and respect and boundaries. You're worthy of all of it. That will never change. So how do we reclaim our worth when we have become disconnected, when we have become separate from it? Because our worth never left. It never left us. We never walked a single step without it. It has never been diminished. It has never been altered. But we have become disconnected from it. We have lost touch with it. We have forgot that it is there. So how do we reconnect to it? How do we reclaim it? How do we remember its inherentness? How do we tap into that that inherent divine wisdom that lives within us? And it's actually quite simple. And I'm going to teach you, one of my favorite techniques. But in essence, it becomes disconnecting from our fear. As we live in fear, as we live in anxiety, as we live in stress, we disconnect from love, we disconnect from joy, we disconnect from happiness. To reclaim our worth, to reconnect with it, to remember its presence in our lives, in our bodies, in our souls, we have to do the opposite. We have to disconnect from our fears. We have to disconnect from our egos. We have to disconnect from all of the mad, false, truth beliefs that we've been telling ourselves, that we have chosen to believe, all of these limiting beliefs. And I mean, a belief, really all it is a thought that we continue to tell ourselves over and over and over again. It is a thought that we have decided is true. That's what a belief is. And so we have these limiting beliefs, and we talked about this in previous light talks, but we have these limiting beliefs that we have created for ourselves, for our lives, that strip away, or we perceive that they strip away our worthiness, when in fact they don't. They just disconnect us from it. They disconnect us from its presence. They disconnect us from itself. Excuse me, just staying hydrated through all of this talking. So how do we disconnect from our fear instead of disconnecting from ourselves? How do we separate ourselves from our fear and from our ego instead of separating from love and joy and happiness and compassion? And it's actually quite simple, although it can be challenging to practice just because it's not something that we're taught. But it comes down to living in the present moment. And that might sound odd to you if you're new to this journey, if you're new on this path, and if you're new to this you know, this idea, or this, you know, spiritual realm. And I apologize for the little one. He's distracting me. He's making noise. But if you're new to this way of thinking, if you're new on your journey of self-growth and personal development and self-actualization, the idea of living in the present moment can seem odd, because we think, well, we're here. How am I not living in the present moment if I'm right here? But we live in our fear. We live in our ego. We live in the ideas and the thoughts that our ego is constantly telling us and whispering to us. And it's these fearful thoughts of, you know, we experienced pain in the past. We experienced loss and suffering. And so our ego is always there at the back of our mind saying, well, be careful, because you could experience that loss, that pain, that suffering again in the future. And it creates this anticipation of this future heartbreak, this future state of pain, this future state of loss and suffering. And it's that anticipation that creates the anxiety. And so many of us are living with anxiety. So many of us are living with, you know, depression and anxiety, and these altered mental states. And, you know, for many of us, I mean, I don't want to diminish pharmaceuticals here in any way, and that's not what this conversation is about. There are many people in the world who are greatly benefited by pharmaceuticals and medication to correct these, you know, hormonal imbalances that cause this anxiety and these states of depression. But it is not the vast majority of us, okay? And that's just what I want to say here, is that the vast majority of us experience anxiety and experience depression. Depression often caused by a loss of identity, or a loss of, you know, who we are, where we want to go, who we want to be, just based off all of these images that the external world is showing to us about who we should be, and who we're meant to be, and who we should be if we want to be desirable and loved and accepted and worthy. And these states of anxiety just based off of the anticipation of forthcoming pain and forthcoming suffering and forthcoming heartbreak. And for most of us, it's not a medical issue. It's not, you know, a chemical or hormonal imbalance that needs to be dealt with in terms of pharmaceuticals. For many of us, it is that our thoughts have run our thoughts have run rampant, like through our minds. They are running unchecked. There is just a rampage of fear in our thoughts, in our minds, and it's, you know, it's become the devil's playground in there. And I say the devil fictitiously, but you understand what I mean, in that our thoughts are just running wild and free and unchecked, and they are often thoughts of fear. They are often these mad ideas of the ego that keep getting instilled in us, that keep getting whispered to us and replayed to us on a loop over and over and over and over again. And it's these thoughts that are running free, running wild, that create all of this anticipation of future pain, of future suffering. And that's what creates this state of anxiety that we live in. So how do we break free from the fear? Because the fear is basically the remembering of the past, the remembering of past pain, and the anticipation of future pain. And it's that fear, living in that fear, that causes us to extract ourselves from the present moment, because we are living at the same time in our past and in the future, in our fear of the past and in our remembrance of the past and in our fear of the future, and our anticipation of the future. And in that moment, we're no longer living in the present moment. We're no longer living in the here and the now. So how do we break free of that fear? How do we live in the present moment? How do we reconnect ourselves to the present moment? And there's a lot of ways we can do this. We can do this through our spiritual practice, through meditation, through anything that is a meditative practice or a meditative ritual for us. We can live in a meditative state, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're sitting, you know, in lotus with your palms up and you're meditating all day long. But you can live in a meditative state which means you are here, you are present, you are connected to your breathing, you are connected to your body. And sometimes that just means taking moments throughout the day to reconnect to your breathing. We often develop this very shallow breathing, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, but reconnecting to our full range of breathing, going all the way deep into our lungs, extending our diaphragm, taking those deep breaths throughout, different moments of the day. You can even use a timed breathing method where you inhale for the count of 4, hold it for the count of 4, exhale for the count of 4, and continue that cycle over and over again. And you can do that for 1 or 2 minutes at different moments throughout the day, and allow that to re-anchor you into the present moment, to reconnect to your breath, to focus on your breath. Just the act of focusing on our breath allows us to ground and center ourselves in the present moment, because our breath is very much here in the now. So that's just one of the ways. And I mean, technology has made this so easy for us, with all of these meditation apps and these breathing apps. And if you've got, a smartwatch, most of the smartwatches now have mindful moments on them where you can run through breathing cycles throughout the day. And you can even ask it to set up reminders for you so that you can set the intention to breathe and reconnect to your body. So that's just one of the many ways that we can live in the present moment, that we can reconnect to ourselves. Another one is by spending time with children or pets. I hope you've got a beverage with you and you're enjoying it as much as I am on this beautiful, very early Sunday morning, or at least early for me to be doing this. Another way that I mentioned is spending time with kids or with pets or with animals or in nature. We'll talk about nature in a second. Our children, for the most part, live very much in the present moment. There are special circumstances in which, our children deal with anxiety and live with anxiety. And that extracts them from the present moment. And I speak from experience. I've, having a child who deals with anxiety or lives through moments and bouts of anxiety. But for the vast majority of the time, children live in the present moment. Same thing with animals, same things with, with pets and nature. If you have a dog, if you have a cat, they are very much in the present moment. They're not remembering pain or suffering or anxiety from the past, and they're not in anticipation of the future. They're living right here, right now, in the present moment. This evolved state of mind that allows us to experience this anticipation, this anxiety. We develop it through age. The younger our children are, the less they are plagued by this mindset or this way of being. So just spending time with our children, spending time with pets, spending time in nature with animals, allows us to reconnect and spend time to re-anchor ourselves in the present moment. So that is just another way that we can, anchor ourselves into the present moment or live in a meditative state like I was talking about. Is by spending time in nature or doing things that allow us to be present in our bodies, in our lives, in our breath, in our breathing. Things like yoga. If you are artistic, if you enjoy doing art of any type, whether it be painting or drawing, spending moments where you are immersing yourself in that art, in that passion. These are ways that we anchor ourselves in the present moment. Yoga is very much a meditative practice, and I don't mean that to be that we actually meditate, although in some yoga classes or in some yoga practices we do. But the fact that we are just there, living, breathing, connecting to our bodies, connecting to our minds, stilling our minds, separating ourselves from the fearful thoughts of the ego, allows us to live in this meditative state and anchor ourselves in the present moment. And the more we anchor ourselves in the present moment, the more we disconnect and separate ourselves from our ego and from our fear and from this notion that we are separate. We are separate from whether it be depending on your beliefs, whether it be your higher power, the universe, love, or just your inherent worthiness, which is what we're talking about today. The more we choose to anchor ourselves in these present moments, to practice, living in a meditative state, to being present in our bodies, in our lives, in our moments with our families and our children, the more we break that control that the ego and our fear-based mind has on us, that causes us to believe that we are unworthy of love and connection and belonging and respect and everything else that we attach to our worth. So choosing to be here, choosing to be present, choosing to live in the here and now allows us to reconnect with our inherent worth, to remember that it is there because we have always been worthy. Like I said, we often attach our worth to all of these external factors in our lives. We attach our worth to our bodies, to the way they look, to the numbers on the scale, to the size of our clothes, to the jobs, the job titles, the careers, the house, the boat, the car, the guy, the girl, all of these things. We attach our worth to all of these external circumstances, that I will be worthy when, I will be worthy of love and connection and belonging when I attain all of these things, or when I attain X or Y. But when we disconnect from the ego, when we disconnect from the fear and live in the present moment, we break that cycle of thinking. We begin to realize that we have always been worthy. We have always been worthy of love and connection and belonging, just as we are. There is absolutely nothing that needs to change about who we are or where we are in our lives in order for us to be worthy of that inherent divine love, connection, and belonging that is our birthright. There is nothing that needs to change. But I get it. I get that sometimes we get caught up in these fearful thoughts and our anxiety takes over. And so I want to share with you one of the practices that I have in the book, and that is the Ego Eradicator meditation, which is it's a Kundalini meditation based off of a breath practice, which is called breathoffire. And it is a great way of removing these energetic blocks that create themselves, that take up space in our bodies, because our fear-based thoughts, our ego, these thoughts, this anxiety, this fear, it begins to take a residence inside our bodies. It begins to create these blockages, and you'll feel that in different areas of your body. You'll feel the weight, you'll feel the tension, you'll feel the soreness of your muscles. And that is our fear, our anxiety, all of these years of compounded fear and anxiety and pain and suffering that have been undealt with, trauma that has not been dealt with. They compound themselves, they stack themselves, and they create these areas in our body where we carry this weight, this pain, this suffering. And so the Ego Eradicator, the breathoffire breath work, allows us to begin to break through all of those energetic blocks, all of that stale and stagnant energy inside the body, all of those places where our fear, our thoughts of unworthiness, of inadequacies, all of those places where those thoughts have taken residence in our body, all those places that we hold them. For a lot of us, it's in our shoulders or in our backs. For some of us, it's in our chest or in our thighs or in our lower backs. And as we succumb to the thoughts of the ego, as we succumb to our fears and our thoughts of inadequacy and unworthiness, we often begin to feel that pain physically manifest itself onto our bodies. Sorry, my thoughts are my words are not lining up with my thoughts this morning. But as those thoughts and those fears begin to compound themselves, as they begin to take up more and more space within the body, if they are unchecked, if they are undealt with, it creates more and more dis-ease in the body. And what I mean by dis-ease is a body that is not at ease. And that can, in the future, over years and decades, manifest itself into actual illness and actual disease. Because the same way our minds create this separateness, where we believe that, we tap into the fearful thoughts of the ego, the mad thoughts of the ego, the lies, the limiting beliefs. As we begin to accept those as truth, we separate from ourselves. We separate from our holiness. We separate from our divinity, from our inherent worthiness. That separation over time, if left unchecked, begins to create the same type of separation amongst our cells within our body. So you've got these cells in our bodies that separates from others, like, I don't want to be part of the spleen. I don't want to be part of the kidney. I want to go here and do this thing on my own and create my own little empire and my own little fortress of solitude. And as our cells begin to separate within our body, as we, experience this separation on a molecular level, those cells that are becoming separate, that's cancer. That's that's a form of cancer, in the sense that these cells, they extract themselves and they no longer believe that they are part of the whole. They are no longer contributing to being part of the whole, of the, the healthy working of the spleen or the bladder or the kidney. And they become a cancer, a type of cancer. I don't mean physical cancer in that sense, although sometimes that's how it does manifest itself. But the same happens with our thoughts. These thoughts become cancerous. They become toxic. These beliefs become cancerous. They become toxic. Over time, as individuals, when we continue to live in these limiting thoughts and these limiting beliefs, you have people in our society that become cancerous, because they are no longer moving towards the good of the whole. They are no longer contributing to the good of the whole, of the collective. And so as we disconnect from our fear instead of our love and our worthiness and our inherent goodness and our divinity, instead of separating from the truth of who we are, we choose to separate from our fear, separate from our ego. Our ego will always be present. It will always exist, but we can choose to separate from it on a day-to-day basis, on a moment-by-moment basis. And we do that through prayer, through meditation, through breath work, through living in the present moment, like we talked about earlier. So let's talk about the Ego Eradicator, meditation and breath work. So Ego Eradicator is a Kundalini meditation, and it is based off of the principles of breathoffire, which is a breathing practice. I want to add this disclaimer that if you are pregnant, or if you are on your menstrual cycle, or if you have any known health conditions that affect your heart or your lungs, you want to skip this practice for now until you consult with a medical professional. You can just practice breathing deeply with us, but you don't actually want to practice breathoffire. So, to do breathoffire, it's actually very simple. You want to start by breathing deeply, in and out through your nose. Now, I want you to take your hands and I want you to place them on your belly, place them on your tummy. And I know that could be a little bit hard to see here. Let me see if I can lower my camera a little bit. So you want to place them here on your tummy. And as you breathe in deeply, I want you to see if you feel your stomach expanding as you breathe in, and contracting as you breathe out, as you exhale. And it's really important to feel that movement on your stomach, because that means that we are breathing fully and deeply with the diaphragm. So I want you to picture your diaphragm as this shelf that lies right here below the lungs. And it does this accordion-like motion where it goes down and it goes back up. As it is going down, it is compressing all of your intestines, it is compressing all of your organs, which means you should feel your stomach expanding outwards as you breathe in. And then as it comes back up, you should feel everything contracting and moving back inward. It's very much a natural way of breathing. But the problem is, many of us have developed this method of shallow breathing where we breathe into our chests. We breathe very shallowly. So as you breathe, it's the chest that lifts. and goes back down, but your stomach isn't moving. Your stomach isn't expanding. So I want you, as you're breathing deeply, to keep your hands on your stomach, and I want you to feel that expansion in and out of your stomach, because if you're not feeling that expansion, it means that you aren't breathing with your diaphragm. And the problem is that if you aren't breathing with your diaphragm, you aren't filling your lungs to their maximum capacity in terms of oxygen. And if you're not feeding your body with the maximum amount of oxygen that you can take in, you're doing a disservice to your body, to your nervous system, to your mind, to your brain, because everything functions based off of the amount of oxygen and the quality of oxygen that we intake. Okay? And I want to say that if you do find that you breathe in a shallow manner where you're breathing into your chest, it's completely normal. We live in a society, in a culture that has taught us to be very, very mindful of our physical appearance and how we look. And so a lot of us have learned to breathe shallowly into our chests instead of into our diaphragm, and fully expanding our diaphragm and our lungs, because it causes our stomachs to expand. And what has society told us about the way we look? We don't want our stomachs to expand. Our core should always be tight and flat at all times, even when we're breathing. It's completely ridiculous. But this is the type of pressure that our society and our culture has ingrained in us. So if you find that you're breathing shallow and you're breathing into your chest instead of into your stomach, don't use this as an opportunity to beat yourself up, please. This is not an opportunity to belittle yourself or to diminish yourself. This is very normal. We see it all the time. And it is something that our society and our culture has ingrained on us. It's okay. It's just not beneficial for our bodies, for our nervous systems, for our health. And so we're going to work on changing that. We're going to work on rewriting the way we breathe, reprogramming ourselves. So I want you to put both hands on your stomach, and I want you to take deep breaths in and out through your nose. And I want you to feel the way your stomach goes in and out. And if you can also place one hand on your lower back and one on your stomach. And you should feel your body expanding both ways as you inhale and contracting as you exhale. This is the normal pattern of breathing. This is the way our bodies were designed to breathe. This is what it means to breathe deeply. For some of us, as we start to practice this, if this is not something that we are familiar with, if we have become accustomed to breathing very shallowly for most of our lives, when we start to breathe this way, we can feel lightheaded or dizzy. It is normal. It just means that your brain, your heart, everything is getting much, much, much more oxygen than it is used to. It is not dangerous at all. You will not faint. Do not worry. But if you are feeling that lightheaded, that dizziness just from breathing deeply, don't go any further with the breathoffire meditation. Just continue to practice breathing deeply and continue to practice daily, like throughout several moments of your day. Set reminders on your phone, on your watch, to continue practice breathing deeply, so that this can become second nature to you, so that it becomes your normal way of breathing, and that'll allow you to progress further into this meditation and this type of breath work. And like I said, it is not dangerous at all. It is just that your body is getting this huge influx of oxygen that it is not used to dealing with. And that alone says a lot about, the way we live our lives, right? We are used to living our lives on less than what we need, on less oxygen than we need, less love than we need, less connection that we need. So this just becomes part of reprogramming everything, reprogramming our bodies, reprogramming our thoughts, our minds, our mental states, reprogramming which thoughts and beliefs we choose to accept as true. So let's practice breathing in and out and expanding our stomachs, expanding, breathing into the diaphragm, letting everything expand, okay? And then what I want you to do is to practice breathoffire. Breathoffire is made up of very short bursts of bouts of breath, in and out through the nose, always in and out through the nose. So you're going to take a deep, and I'll walk you through it first, and then we'll practice it together. You're going to take a deep breath in through your nose, And then you're going to exhale just a small amount of air and take in another small amount of air. And you're going to continue this short cycle of breathing. And you should feel your stomach begin to expand and contract, kind of like the beating of a drum. And it needs to very much be in sequence with how you're breathing. If you find that you are inhaling and your stomach is contracting, that is not a good sign. It means that you are contracting, you are constricting the airflow that is coming into your body and the amount of oxygen that is coming into your body. And that can actually lead to fainting or somebody passing out. So you want to make sure that you are breathing correctly, that as you are inhaling, your stomach is expanding as your diaphragm lowers and is pushing out all of your organs. And then as you are exhaling, your stomach is contracting as your diaphragm lifts and all of your organs go back into place and they begin to settle. So this is what it sounds like. You're going to take a deep breath in, and then you're going to practice short bouts of breath. So and you should feel your stomach begin to move back and forth like the beating of a drum. It is very, very subtle, but you will feel it as long as you keep that connection to your body. And so this is breath of fire. It is a very, very simple practice, but it allows us to move past all of the stagnant energy that we store in our bodies. It allows us to disconnect from our ego, disconnect from our fear, and realign ourselves with our true selves, with our purpose, with our higher self, with the universe, with God, your higher power, whatever you choose to believe. It allows us to come back into alignment. And in those moments where we come back into alignment, we allow ourselves to live in the present moment. And every moment that we live in the present moment, we connect to our inherent worthiness. We connect to the fact that we are enough. Just as we are worthy just as we are of love, of connection, of belonging, of all of it. So that's breath of fire. And to take breath of fire further, to take it into Ego Eradicator, is actually very simple. I'll walk you through it again. There's basically one hand mudra, which a mudra is just basically a hand position, and they all have different meanings to them. The mudra that we use in this Kundalini meditation is you want to take your fingers and curl them in towards your palm, but not completely. You don't want to close your palm. You actually want to keep it opened. You want to keep your palm opened, but your fingers curled inwards and your thumb sticking outwards like this. So it kind of looks like a modified hitchhiker position. And you want to do this with both hands. And you're going to take both hands and both arms and you're going to stick them out at a 45-degree angle. I know it's hard to see here because you can't see me on full frame, but you want to keep your hands out above your head at 45 degrees as you practice breath of fire. So again, breath of fire, very simple. You breathe in through your nose, and then as you begin to exhale, it becomes short bouts of breath that are going in and out as you inhale and exhale. So it's just... And to practice this with the hand mudra is the exact same thing. You're going to curl your fingers inwards, sticking out your thumbs. And you want to make sure that as you stick out your thumbs, there's energy there. It's not just, it's not limp. You're really sticking out your thumbs. You're pointing them. There's energy in your hands, right? There's energy in your fingers. You want energy expelling from your body. You want the energy to be moving through you. You don't want your body to feel limp. You want it to feel strong. You want it to feel energetic. So you're taking your fingers, you're pointing them outwards, and you're going to have them pointing up. I'm just trying to get them on camera here, but you're going to have them pointing up like this, and you're going to put your hands at a 45-degree angle above your head, and you're going to practice breath of fire. When you practice this meditation, you want to do it from anywhere for 3 to 5 minutes, nothing more than that. It is, it puts a lot of, not necessarily strain on the body, but it is a very different way of breathing. And doing this for a long period of time can be taxing on the body if this is not something that you're used to or that you're familiar with. And to be honest, you'll practice this and you'll practice it for a minute or two, and you'll feel that it is actually very demanding. Just to keep this constant motion of breath in and out while you have your arms sticking out. So you don't need to practice this for more than 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes is more than enough. And I would actually say if you're new to this, start with 3 minutes. And if you can't even get to 3 minutes, if you're doing 1 or 2, that's absolutely fine as well. And if you want a guided meditation of this, if you want guided instructions, they are actually available for free on the website. If you go to daviddcoach.ca/warrior-tools, there's the full meditation album from Awakening the Lightwarriorwithin that is there, but there's actually, I think, 3 or 4 meditations that are available for free as a preview of the meditation album. And I know that Breathoffire and Ego Eradicator is one of them. So if you want a digital version of this that is guided, that is guiding you through the breathing and through the mudras and the arm movements, that is all available there for you. And you can play them directly through the website, or you can download them so that you can save them to your phone or your iPod or your computer or whatever device you may be using. So, Breath of Fire, again, mudras, very, very simple. We keep them out at a 45-degree angle, and we keep our eyes closed, and we practice the breathing together. We'll do it now. We'll do it for a minute. And then at the end of the meditation, as you exhale, you're going to bring your hands together over your head until your thumbs touch. So arms sticking above your head. You're just going to let your fingers touch as you exhale completely. And then you're going to bring your hands down into prayer and just settle back into a normal rhythm of breathing as you settle back into your body and you come back to yourself, as you come back to your physical body in the room, wherever you are, wherever you're sitting. Okay, very, very, very simple. But you'll find that I've used this meditation so many times in my life, and it's actually a very regular practice of mine. When the ego takes hold, when these fearful thoughts take hold in our lives, that anxiety begins to build in us, and it becomes this whirlwind of anxiety and fearful thoughts around us. And this meditation, this practice, Ego Eradicator, can take us out of that in an instant. I used to find myself often, especially before, I talk about it in the book, when I was starting to date again after my divorce and after my separation. When I had started going back out into the dating world, excuse me, just enjoying my coffee, which is cold, but it's okay. I'm used to drinking cold coffee as a parent. When I went back out into the dating world, all of my limiting beliefs about who I was began to resurface, about whether or not I was worthy of love and affection and desire, just based on all of these limiting beliefs I had around my body. And the ego would take hold, and I would get stuck in what felt like a whirlwind, a hurricane of these obsessive, fearful thoughts, this anxiety that I could not break free from. And it would be triggered by the smallest, most insignificant thing. Like, I could text someone, and if it had been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I hadn't gotten a response yet, this anxiety would begin to build up within me of, they're not responding because I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I am not desirable enough, I'm not attractive enough. And it would begin to snowball, and I would get stuck in this whirlwind of obsessive thoughts that I could not break free from. And I think that we often find ourselves in these moments of obsessive, fearful thinking, where our anxiety just begins to build and build and build and build and build, and it doesn't dissipate on its own. And sometimes we get stuck in this for minutes, sometimes it's hours, sometimes it's for days. And I know this all too well because, while my limiting thoughts and beliefs have changed over the years, I still have moments of anxiety. Even though I have a meditation practice, even though I have all of these tools, I still have these moments of anxiety, of fearful thought that build up in me and create this whirlwind of obsessive thinking. And it's around different circumstances now. Now it's around circumstances around my family, around my environment, around our living conditions. There are different things now, around our child's safety, especially with the young child that's beginning to grow and to walk and to climb and, experiencing all of these new things. My fearful thoughts take a different form than they did before. Now they're no longer centered or accessed on my body or the way I perceive it. They're surrounding other areas and other aspects of my life. But I still get caught in these whirlwinds of obsessive, fearful thoughts that develop and bring forth all of this anxiety within me. So I want to say that, and I want to stress that this is not the be all end all, that you're going to do this once and you're good and you never have to do it again. There's a reason why these meditations, these breath practices are tools in our tool belts, because life will continue to throw us curveballs. Our ego, insidious in nature, will continue to find new things to cause us to be fearful about. It'll find new ways to make us anticipate pain or suffering or loss that will bring forth all of this anxiety. And so having these tools in our tool belts that we can continually call upon will help us in our practice. It will help us in living a more present and fulfilled life. So there is no shame in having to come back to these tools over and over and over again. And if you feel that you need to come back to them every day, that's absolutely fine. Anything that you need to do to be able to ground yourself in the present moment, do it. Because the more we ground ourselves in the present moment, the more we live more fully in the present moment, in our bodies, in our lives, in our breath, the more we can spread love in this world, and the more we can spread light in this world. And we are living right now through circumstances that require us to show up as ourselves fully more than ever before. All right, we are on the precipice of change. We are on the precipice of transformation for our world as a whole. And more than ever, it is important for us to show up fully as ourselves. So we're going to practice breathoffire and the Ego Eradicator just for a minute. I won't go for too long, just because I know that this is new to a lot of us. And then we'll wrap up. We'll begin to wrap up. We'll do a short reading from the book, and we'll begin to close off on today's light talk. So wherever you are, just make sure that you're sitting in a comfortable position, whether that be on the floor, in a chair, on the sofa, lying down in bed, wherever it is. Just want to make sure that your spine remains straight. If you can, if you're in a chair, you want to put your feet on the floor so that you are grounded and connected. That is okay. If you want to sit in lotus or cross-legged, that's okay as well. As you are practicing any type of breath work or meditation, it is helpful to keep your tongue pressed against the roof of your mouth. It helps to keep that energetic connection. And we want to keep our eyes closed throughout the entire practice. That also allows us to keep that energetic connection and allows us to stay present in our breath practice and in our meditation practice. So, with eyes closed, take a few deep breaths in and out through your nose, feeling your diaphragm and your stomach expand and contract as you breathe. It is expanding on the inhale, expanding on the exhale. And we are going to get ready for our breathoffire practice. So we are going to take the mudra that we practiced before. You're going to curl your fingers inwards, your thumbs extending outwards, energy in your hands. You are going to extend your hands at a 45-degree angle above your head. We're going to take another deep breath in through the nose, out through the nose. And then on the next deep breath in, we're going to start breathoffire. So deep breath in. As you exhale, bring your hands over your head, touching your thumbs together. Take another deep breath in and out. Slowly bring your hands down into prayer at the center of your chest. Take another deep breath in and out, settling into your body. And just slowly come back. So that is Ego Eradicator. We practiced it for a very short period of time. That was about maybe 45 seconds to a minute. Like I said, you don't need to go longer than 3 to 5 minutes on this. If you're just starting out, 3 minutes is plenty, believe me. I don't know about you, I can already feel different in my body. I can feel my energy is different. I can feel a lot of the stagnant energy, a lot of the stress has dissipated and has moved out of my body. So use this as a practice when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling anxious, when you are stuck in all of those fearful thoughts. Use breathoffire, use the Kundalini meditation, Ego Eradicator. Get the free downloads off of the website. They're there for a reason. They're there to support you in this practice. And just come back to it over and over and over again. It is super simple. It takes no more than 3 minutes to shift your state, to shift your emotional, mental, and physical state. In 3 minutes, you can shift all of it, and you can be a completely different person than you were 3 minutes ago. You can be living in your joy, in your love, in your light, in your compassion, instead of living in your fear, in your anxiety, in your anticipation of pain and suffering. So do it as often as you need. And it's one of these great meditation practices because you don't need anything. If you have music that you want to use to create a backdrop for it, you absolutely can. Definitely not required. All you really require is yourself. You just need to be able to sit somewhere and have 3 minutes to yourself, uninterrupted. You can do it in the bathroom if that's the only place that you get privacy or time to yourself. As a parent and having children, I can understand that sometimes our bathroom is our sacred space and it's the only place we get where we get to be alone for a moment. So if that's the only place you can practice this, go for it. But just take that time for yourself every single day, just to tune back in, to disconnect from the ego, disconnect from the fear, and just realign yourself with the truth of who you are so that you can strengthen those attitudinal muscles. Because the more we do that, the more we begin to live more presently, the more we remember the inherent worthiness that lives within us, that allows us to be worthy of everything that we desire in our lives, that allows us to remember that we are enough just as we are. You are worthy of choosing yourself. You are worthy of choosing who you want to be with, what life you want to have, where you want to live. You are worthy of choosing who you want to be. The world does not have to tell you who you need to be. You get to choose for yourself who you want to be. And you are worthy of choosing. You are worthy of making those choices for yourself. You do not have to settle for who the world wants you to be, who your family wants you to be, who your community wants you to be, who your spouse or partner wants you to be. You get to choose who you want to be, and you are worthy of making that choice. You are worthy of saying no. You are worthy of establishing boundaries in your life to protect and nurture your energy. You are worthy of taking care of yourself, of extracting yourself from situations, relationships, environments that are not supportive, that are detrimental to your health, your well-being. You are worthy of taking that time to take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself is a radical act of love and compassion. So, let's just end with a brief reading from the book, and then I'm going to release all of us to our days, because I know that we've gone over an hour here, which I didn't think we would, but we did. This is going to just be a quick reading from this chapter on the book, which is called Every Idea Has Its Dawn. And this was just based off of, all of these thoughts around self-worth, around being worthy just as we are, who we are, finally beginning to take root after so long in my spiritual journey and my journey through healing and self-actualization and self-development, which I am still on and will continue until the day I die. But these new ideas, these new beliefs beginning to dawn and beginning to take root and beginning to settle as truth, beginning this remembering of, our innate state of inherent wisdom, our innate state of divinity and holiness. So we'll do a quick reading from the book before we wrap up from today. And this is from page 154 of Awakening the Lightwarriorwithin. Reclaiming our self-worth is the fastest path to raising our vibrations and changing our lives. It all comes from the principle and core belief that you were born worthy. Nothing you will ever do in this lifetime will change that. You were born, you're here, you're breathing, you're worthy. The reason reclaiming our worth is so important is because it directly correlates to how we show up in the world. It affects our presence, our impact, and most importantly, our message. You do not need to be taking a political stand, a political, environmental, or social stand to have a message. What's in your heart? What's important to you? That's your message. You're here to spread love in your own unique way, to be a beacon of light for yourself and others. That is the path of the warrior. So, with that, my friends, I just want to thank you so much for being here with me on this Sunday morning. I know it was early, and I hope you had your coffee or your beverage of choice with you, but just thank you for being here with me. Thank you for taking this moment to reconnect to yourself, to reconnect to your inherent worth, to the innate wisdom that lies within you, taking the time to reconnect to your breath, to your body, taking a moment to practice with me this morning. I am truly grateful and truly appreciative. And I look forward to talking with you all again next week in our next Light Talk as we begin to wrap up this series of Light Talks surrounding the book, Awakening the Lightwarriorwithin. And I'm sure there will be additional Light Talks in the future on different subjects, but we are coming towards the end of this series. And I just want to thank you so much for being here with me on this journey and spending your Sunday morning with me. Or wherever you are in the world, whatever day it is in the world, when you're choosing to catch this replay. Just thank you so much for choosing to honor yourself and to care for yourself and to take time for yourself, because it is a radical act of self-love to choose ourselves, to choose to nurture ourselves and support ourselves and restore ourselves. So just thank you for honoring the magnificence of all that you are and who you want to be in this world. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I look forward to seeing you again next weekend.